Welcome to Business This Week on ITV. It's another edition of the program. I am Blessing Aichi. Now today we'll look at the current happenings around Nigeria's economy. So many things are happening. The fight between Russia and Ukraine is impacting food prices in Nigeria, and inflation is soaring because, yes, we are also having fuel scarcity, and yes, let's talk about energy, even as we've mentioned fuel scarcity. So the national grid collapsed twice in 1 week. That's also impacting businesses. So many other things are happening around Nigeria's economy, affecting the business climate. We'll take a close look at that on the show. First, let's bring you up to speed with business activities for the week. Please stay tuned. And now on Business Roundup, global food prices are poised to keep climbing even after jumping to a record high in February 2022. The International Monetary Fund has said the world body in a blog yesterday warned that poor nations of the world will be worst hit by the impending food crisis occasioned by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The high food prices, it added, would place heaviest burden on vulnerable populations while adding to headwinds for the global economic recovery. Food commodity prices rose 23.1% last year, the fastest pace in more than a decade, according to inflation-adjusted figures from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. February's reading was the highest since 1961 for the gauge tracking prices for meat, dairy, cereals, oils, and sugar. The institution said the war in Ukraine and sanctions on Russia are upending shipments and possibly production for two of the world's largest agricultural producers. The two countries account for nearly 30% of world wheat exports and 18% of corn, most of which is shipped through Black Sea ports that are now closed. Wheat futures traded in Chicago, the global benchmark, recently rose to a record. Food accounts for 17% of consumer spending in advanced economies, but 40% in sub-Saharan Africa. Though this region is highly import-dependent for wheat, the grain constitutes only a minor share of the total caloric needs. So talking food, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has said that Nigeria, as well as the states of the Federation, will find it easier to overcome revenue issues by devoting deliberate attention to commercial farming. Professor Osinbajo stated this while interacting with a delegation from the Development Agenda for Western Nigeria Commission, who was on a courtesy visit to the presidential villa, Abuja. The vice president, in a statement issued by the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, office of the vice president, Mr. Laolu Akonde, for the submitted that all it takes is the hard work and dedication of all stakeholders in the sector. Speaking after listening to a presentation on the Commission's framework for sustainable agricultural transformation in the state, Professor Osinbajo said agriculture can be the solution to a lot of Nigeria's IGR needs and a lot of resource needs, as proven so many times that it is possible. Making reference to what was obtainable in the 1950s and 60s in the agricultural sector in the then regional government, the vice president noted that the difference between then and now is the political will, adding that if there is sufficient dedication and hard work, agriculture can feed the entire country, while citing the example of smaller countries not up to the size of one state in Nigeria that are producing enough and exporting produce to the other parts of the world. The vice president also acknowledged the importance of private sector collaboration in transforming agriculture, but emphasized the need for stakeholders to focus on research and development, noting that the progress made by some countries of the world, especially in the area of commercial farming, have been hinged on research. Let's move on to telecommunication. Telecommunications service providers under the aegis of the Association of Licensed Telecoms Operators of Nigeria have said a new tariff review for telco service may happen if the rise in the price of diesel is sustained. The chairman, Alton Benga Adebayo, disclosed this in an interview. According to him, the telecoms industry is one of the major consumers of diesel in the country. The sector is said had already been impacted by the current hike in diesel prices and scarcity of the product, explaining that diesel is required in all the places that require telecom services nationwide. According to Adebayo, telcos will continue to ensure that there are no service disruptions in the nation. However, he added that there might be a need for a tariff review if the present diesel crisis persists. He said while telcos are doing all that they can to ensure the business continues as usual in all cases and under every circumstance, the assurance for the public is that there would not be a time of outage because of the current diesel crisis. Stating, however, what cannot be assured is that at some point there may not be a consideration for some form of tariff review. That's it on business activities for the week. We're going to a quick break and then we'll begin to look at the current developments around Nigeria's economy. I'm so glad you stayed for Talking Business. I have Agri Manu here, who's a business analyst, and together we'll be looking at the current developments in around Nigeria's economy. So, Agri, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and good afternoon, viewers out there. Thank you.
All right, a lot has been happening around Nigeria's economy. Let's begin from the foreign scene, external pressure or external happenings that have also put pressure on our own economy here. That's the Russia-Ukraine fight that has contributed to skyrocketing prices of food in Nigeria. But before that, the Russia-Ukraine issue, we also had our own issue with food price. That has been on for quite a while. Food prices have been going higher and higher. As it concerns the food prices, that has pushed inflation high. We also have that fuel scarcity is also making demands for goods and services very, very high. So this happenings now affecting the Nigerian economy. What's your take on it?
Yes.
Skyrocketing price of food that has also increased inflation rates in Nigeria.
Okay, yes. First of all, it's actually a fact that the price of food has actually skyrocketed to a very large extent, that it's currently affecting everybody in the country. And that's because of the fact that, number one, there's actually, a huge trade deficit when it actually has to do, with this economy we currently run at present. A situation whereby, the level or the amount of imports, far outweighs,
yes,
what we actually export. And so this actually led to, I actually was wondering, why would the issues, in Ukraine and Russia actually affect, have impacts on us over here. That actually goes a long way to tell you that a lot of things that we spend and consummate in this country, actually imported. And so whatever happens out there goes a long way to affecting how, we live. And that shouldn't be what it should be. This actually should be an eye-opener that Nigerians should look more inward as regards, issues of import and export, because by the time you're having this large, imports coming in, far more, above importation, what we're actually exporting, it becomes a big challenge. I think in 2020 it was actually around 173.8 billion.
Okay, the trade deficit.
And
now it is risen to 1.94
trillion. You can actually imagine
that trade deficit is increasing by the day.
Just annoying, and that's the reason why very far away in Europe there's an issue in far away in Europe, and then we in Africa here actually having, in Nigeria in particular, are having
real-time impact.
Things are just going haywire, and then it's actually going out of control, and this will surely cause inflations and what have you.
Yeah, we depend on Ukraine and Russia for a lot of things, especially for wheat, which a lot of bakeries use for bread and all. But besides the Russia effect, internally, what are those things that we can do to actually reduce these food prices that are actually going up every day?
In fact, apart from the fact that these food prices are going up following the effects that are actually, emanating from the war between Russia and Ukraine just now, this actually goes a long way to even affecting our economy, very badly, because this is going to drive down the income of, the low-income earners, and then this is going to...
Yes, the IMF have already said that poor countries will be worst hits.
That's what it is. You can't save anymore, and then this goes a long way to affecting national savings, and then what have you? it's actually going to make those who are the middle class, drop further down to, even the low, income bracket, and that's not, at all good for, a country like Nigeria that's trying to see how they can, incorporate. I think it's actually, like I said, I keep saying, it should be an eye-opener. I mean, we should be able to feed ourselves. That's what, the developing countries actually fight.
Let's take it from we should be able to feed ourselves. Now, assuming that we are able to feed ourselves, or we don't even depend on Ukraine and Russia for some of the food or some of the raw materials that the food processing chain depends on them for. Now, how do we get to that sufficiency, that level of sufficiency, that whatever is happening in the international scene does not directly impact us? How do we get to that point?
It's actually very, very annoying, and it's laughable that in this country we cannot, at least for now. Imagine look at the issue of fuel. That even at this stage, the 3 refineries that are in this country, none of them is working.
Okay.
And so when there's an issue of fuel like this, it takes longer time to actually resolve. Why? Because you are not just looking within, it cannot be resolved even within. You have to be looking at supplies and all that. Are you saying that
food crisis cannot be resolved internally?
Of course, it should be. It should have been.
How then do we resolve it?
When you rely on external forces, on external supplies, you cannot now tell them how much they should sell for you.
Now, at this point, we cannot even rely on external supply because external supply is in short, is in short supply. So how do we make up? What do we do to remedy the situation and also prepare for the future if something like this should ever happen again?
It's just being intentional. The government has to be intentional about what they want to achieve, what they want to do. There's no need. Asking you to come into agriculture is not just by merely saying it. There is a need for you for the government to sit down and say, this is what we want to achieve, this is what we want to do. The consumption of wheat in this year was so whatever. Due to increase in population, this is what we have just now. And then there's a need for us to sit down and look at how do we at least do some investment into this aspect, into these areas, knowing fully well that, wheat, the bread, the, shops, small shops, and what have you.
They also even supply a lot of corn. Yes.
Yeah, of course. That's where this is actually coming from.
One would think that being Africa, will be more into agricultural activities than the Western nation.
Do you know that actually, you said, some time ago, and I was looking at it. Sometimes it actually depend on the number of people actually farming. It depends on what and how that farm is being done. How is that farm done? And that's the reason why, some of the poorest nations in the world, in Africa today, or in the world as it were, are mainly into farming. And it goes a long way to tell you how farming should be done.
Okay.
Go and see how people do farming in Malaysia. Go and see how people do farming in the Western world. You actually understand that there are a lot of techniques, a lot of technology that has been put. I say it every time. Nigeria, as it were, Africa, were quite civilized before the white woman came. But the problem we have actually had, even up to this, the fact that we have failed to embrace technology.
Okay.
The government has actually failed in that aspect to look at these people who are asking to come into farming. Are you asking a graduate to go into farming and start doing, I wouldn't know, 50 hips or 100 hips or whatever and all that?
Okay, so it should be mechanized farming.
Mechanized farming.
Like the vice president was advocating.
If you have these things in place, I mean, it will actually look very welcoming. Okay. It will actually be worth it, and the people will be ready to come just in, because why? They will now be looking at how possible, they can probably feed a portion or a particular, amount of, people in that society or thereabout. And not the way we actually want them to go pick a land somewhere and then go plant 50, 70 corn. Probably there are no even, assistances in the area of finances or fertilizers, things that would probably we encourage people to probably go into. That's the reason why we're actually having the issues we're having just now.
Now, some have said the issue we have with food crisis is not just with not producing enough, is also with the value chain, processing, storing, and all other things. That sometimes we waste some parts of the food that would have been processed into other things.
Honestly.
How do we correct that?
Well, it still goes a long way to talking about technology.
Okay.
There is a way that you can transport tomatoes from Kano to Lagos, and then you get a larger percentage of, probably let me say 97%, still in their real
cutting down
shape.
waste.
Cutting down waste. That's one of the big issues I think farmers have. I was a time I actually was into farming, cassava and all that. Do you know that after we were done harvesting, it became, when we're actually harvesting, it became an issue of where do we sell to.
Okay.
At the end of the day, we ended up sending it to the women who didn't even give us money, because why? They wanted us, well, we have to process first of all to, the local food before we can give you money. Because we went as far as Agbo, off-takers are issues. There are no connections, connectivities between farmers and off-takers. That's one of the big issues they have.
There's a problem with the value chain.
The value chain, and this has to actually, be organized by a system, using a system to probably look at what do the commissioners of agriculture, in the states do? What do they have this departments, even the local government? What do they do actually? This is the challenge just now, that nobody cares. Okay, you just do what you can do. There are no assistance. There are now intentional, assistance that actually come from, these arms of government that will actually look at these issues and see how they can be resolved in one piece.
All right, now, so let's move on to another matter. Now, in the course of the week, we experienced two national grid collapse, and that's actually brought about power outage in the nation's major cities. Now, this is a time where we're talking about fuel crisis, diesel scarcity, and even high price of diesel. And then the backup, which is supposed to be the source of power, but somehow it's like that's backup, actually collapsed. This back and forth we're having with power issue, the national grid having to collapse, and then you have buck passing between the power companies, the transmission saying, oh, it's not our fault, generation says it's not our fault, distribution, of course, absorbs themselves of all the blame. How do we tackle this matter? But before we go to how do we tackle, how is this impacting the economy?
Of course, for a nation that actually runs on diesel, runs on fuel. I mean, look at how bad it can be that all the masts of all the telcos in the country run on diesel. Whether in the forest,
they're even threatening considering tariff review.
That is why we are paying as much as we are paying for data and for recharge. That's just the fact. They tell you how much this guy spends, on daily basis. To monthly, to weekly, and then yearly basis. You actually you'll be amazed that these guys spend, apart from that, you have to now get people to always be on ground to always fill those diesel. That means you're going to bring in more persons. Imagine the number of masts, a company like MTN has, across the country, and how many, mechanos and what have you, they actually will have in those areas, and how many liters of diesel per day. And now that diesel has actually,
it's scarce as well as expensive.
It's crazy. You cannot, the MSMEs out there, let me tell you, Nigeria has a very viable economy, and that's the reason why they are the giant of Africa. There is nothing else that makes Nigerian giant apart from the fact that the workforce, the labor, the people are there. And these people are not just there for business. These are the MSMEs that are over 37 million. Let me tell you that these guys are the people who are actually, employing over 60% of Nigerian youths. And these guys are faced on daily basis with several crises. Cash crisis, as well as money to do business. Of course, you saw what happened.
Access to funds.
Access to funds. What happened a few days ago here that, loan, sharks, talking about these guys that are shut by guns now. Who do they give money to? Apart from the fact that they give, little money to some of these people. Some of these people, they are giving money to little business owners, You need this money to probably buy a generator, buy a little, maybe a freezer or what have you, make up money for what have you. And these are the people that you actually want to progress in business. These are the guys who are doing everything to make sure that they reduce the problem, the issues. This issue of armed robbery, kidnapping, ritual just that is becoming on the high just now. These are the people that are doing all this. And by the time they are being faced by these several issues, moving the issue of cash crisis to now power crisis to what have you, I think it's actually, it's actually too much for business persons who are growing up and need a lot of support, need a lot of comfort, a lot of trainings, a lot of what have you, as it were, are now being faced with several issues, front, back, left, right and center. I think it's actually a lot of effect that is actually having on the Nigerian economy.
Okay, you cannot carry out production without energy. And having energy crisis means that it impacts your production. So that means a return to importation. If we can't produce, then of course we import, further increasing our trade deficit.
Of course,
so how do we tackle the energy crisis? Let's look at the national grid that keeps collapsing, and then power outage that is constantly being experienced in several parts of the country. How do we go about that?
Yes, okay, well, I'm not an engineer just now, but I can tell you that I want to believe that we just have to learn to take things one after the other in this country.
Okay.
If the government is coming and telling us we're going to be having power, and we're going to be having power. I mean, if the government can actually come in and solve the issue of power alone.
One thing at a time.
I can tell you that a lot of, and this, painfully enough, that's what we actually were expecting from this present government, but we're not seeing that happening.
Okay.
And then, of course, just come in and tell us that this power would have, do you know what is going to happen? It means you no more buy fuel to pump water. Okay. It means these those guys will no more, have to, now feel that this
maybe fuel, tariff will come down.
A lot of things will come down because why? Once the cost, that is why some persons are looking at it. People who are into production of, things like wheelbarrow, heavy productions and what have you and all that. There's a time that this, were just what it was in the country, that we were into productions, exportations of these things to neighboring African countries and that. But that can be tried just now. You find out another day, importing these things are even far cheaper. Okay. Because by the time you produce them here, you now put down the cost of all these things, production and all that. You will see that by the time these people go to China and bring down, what have you and all that, theirs will be far cheaper and they close it down in business. So
they keep importing.
They keep importing because why? Importing now becomes cheaper than you that is here and producing. And so I can assure you that the government should be intentional about looking at this one thing. Let us even solve it. The work of the government is not supposed to be too much. Do these things and look at what is going to happen. You see what happened in areas like, having to do roads just now. You just see development.
Okay.
Just do the road and then sit down and watch what's going to happen. Nigerians are very, very, very hardworking people, and I can tell you that once they have the needed amenities to do what they have to do, they will just not call on you to come and give them anything. They are hardworking, they are focused, and then they know what they want to do. And above all, they are always adapt. They can actually adapt very fast. Whatever condition is coming, they quickly see how they can adapt to it, do what they have to do, and see that they live their life the way it should be. It should be. But I can tell you that these things that are not available, this light, is a big challenge for Nigerian entrepreneurs.
Okay, now energy crisis is something that is affecting one part and affecting every other part. It has gone into the aviation sector. So there's a crisis in the aviation sector where the operators are saying they will suspend domestic flight operations due to the high cost of aviation fuel. But the National Assembly is wading into the matter, trying to seek for bailouts for them. But if that happens, would there be any implication on the economy if the operators go ahead to, I think that's been suspended already as of Thursday, suspend local flights. Local flights being suspended in Nigeria. How would that impact the economy?
Of course.
How would that impact business?
You actually cannot overemphasize the troubles and the issues people are facing just now when it has to do with traveling by road. Following the high risk of insecurity, here and there, even within states, apart from having to not talk about, interstate, the issues and the problem. Imagine you're actually having to do something, okay, fine, somebody's supposed to go to, Kano.
Okay.
Kano for NYC. Okay. This is somebody who's going to serve his own nation. He has done everything he has going to do, documented, and then, okay, guy, you go to Kano and go and serve. And then he called me this morning, I was lamenting, I was crying. He wants to go just now. He has to first of all go to Lagos because he cannot. He dare not. He's telling me that he cannot travel through the Abuja route, Opela and what have you, to now go because of the insecurity. Okay. Now he's tempted to go to. He had to borrow money to go to Lagos, and for Lagos now fly to Kano because they fly from Benin here to Kano. You can imagine, for somebody who has just left school and then who would have been with the joy, the euphoria of I am going to serve my country. I'm so happy. Of course, for everybody who is actually rolling to school, writing jams, and then everything. The joy is to probably go serve your nation first of all before you start talking about you having to make a lot of money for yourself or for your family, and then seeing just now that on your way, in a bid to go do that, you are being faced with several. You don't even know how to come back just now because there might just be another hike before he's done with his 3 weeks, campaign and what have you. So this has actually gone.
So for businesses,
businesses, of course, like a lot of these people who do businesses don't manufacture these things, where they are. A lot of them usually want to interstate trade. A lot of guys travel businesses, like I do a lot of meetings we hold because of the fact that sometimes they come very impromptu. Okay, come do this presentation for us, come and pitch for us and all that. We have to go on the flight because you're having a meeting by 11 o'clock on the island in Lagos. How are you going to drive? And then these are going to be on the pause just now because the fact that these things are going to be stopped because this aviation fare is not available. And if they are going to probably now collapse it, should the Senate not do what they have to do on time, it's going to actually affect
is a bailout feasible? Is a bailout feasible at this point in time for the aviation sector in order to prevent suspension of local flights? Is it feasible?
Well, we are still looking at, it now comes to terms and conditions.
Okay.
You can't ask somebody to start flying a plane of about 60 to 80 or thereabout passengers and it's carrying just about 12, carrying 10. They've done it for a few days and all that, because people are now aware that, come, this is no more an option. Let us, if we die, we die.
It's now become a necessity.
I mean, of course, let us see how we can probably, and then see some the other persons who originally would not want to go through, the road and all that. I'm not trying to talk about, let us see how it goes. Leave very early and see what we can do. I have some persons like who have to take that decision because why? They wouldn't want to pay 56 or thereabout from Benin to Lagos. And so it's quite, going to actually be, I actually just pray that they are able to come to terms and see how they can support these guys the best. But finally, the blasting solution is the best one. What is happening? Okay, how come, the adulterated fare you got, about a month and some weeks ago is still just what we are battling with just now?
The lingering nature of the fear scarcity.
Because what we got was that in a week time or 2 weeks time, this issue should actually be off, the ground. But it's quite, funny that we are still battling, and then we're not looking at how that is going to be resolved just now. We're talking about, bailout
for the aviation. But before the general fuel scarcity, aviation fuel had already increased, and it keeps increasing. But the Senate is also considering giving licenses to the airline operators to import aviation fuel by themselves. Do you think that would also open the markets for foreign airlines to begin to run domestic routes?
Yes, that's actually, well, we're still talking about the issue of having to, resolve this issue just now.
Yes.
Of course.
Because at one point, the federal government had threatened to give license to foreign airlines to begin to fly local routes. Now, if they are giving licenses to airline operators to begin to import aviation fuel by themselves, would that be an opportunity for the foreign airlines to cash in and begin to maybe get into local routes?
I think there was a foreign airline that came in, some time ago. I remember we had the news that was quite cheap. Lagos to Abuja, 15,000 naira for, that came from China, and we don't know the name they actually, were caught by. Again, I think that's actually, what we're looking at. If, we have, probably, these guys are going to come in to make things cheaper. But again, we're looking at how it's going to affect, those guys actually,
yes, I was thinking, wouldn't that be stifling business for local investors?
Of course, that's local investors. That's actually what, I think the federal government is looking at, and they're being careful in that aspect. Okay. Allowing these guys to come in, they can do it better, and then they come and give you even cheaper services. But they are careful about that aspect. The likes of, airpiece and what have you, will probably just have some issues on, having to contend with them when it has to do. These guys get cheaper funds over there to probably, they want to get airlines on ground. They can probably bring, smaller airlines that may even run when, you're having issues like this. They may not want to go with the very big ones that probably will, they have a lot of things that probably bring on that these local, guys on ground.
Very good competition.
Of course, yes, may not be able to, match, as it were.
No, let's look at the other side of this. If this is unable to be resolved, possibility of layoffs in the aviation sector. If you're not running local, if you're not flying local routes, there may be the need to cut down workforce.
Of course, of course. If that's going to, of course, any plan just now to probably, collapse this system is going to affect. Again, we're already having a high rate of unemployment in the country, and then the only thing we should do just now as a country to see how we can create, several routes for for more persons to actually come into the system. I think at this point, the chambers, upper chamber has to actually come in and see how they can quickly go into this issue and try to see that these guys have been assessed in the best way they can so that they can subsidize the rate a bit. Let these customers come in again and see how we can ride. Probably for this period of time that they're looking at how they can find a solution to making the aviation fuel, quite available for the normal system to actually run.
Okay, now let's look at businesses that will be impacted by suspension of local flights. Apart from flights carrying humans from one destination to the other, we also have cargo flights.
Of course,
courier services. Wow, how would they fare?
That's going to be actually, they will actually be hit more because every now and then you have, cargo flights, moving things from, one place to another for people who need these things to actually get into, their business areas very fast so they can do what they have to do. Of course, you can't just overemphasize. This is going to affect almost every section of the economy. Knowing fully well that a lot of people are already comfortable with the fact that I can always fly, I can always move, and now going back to where we actually ran from, just because we actually want to live, is actually not going to be a good one at all. I can tell you for free that it's going to have a heavy impact on these businesses. And that will not be too fine for everything falls back to the consumers. We are going to be the one that will pay anyway. And at the end of the day, because by the time you are having to now import or probably ship your goods from Lagos to Abuja or to Kano to just as the case may be, and then you are actually being billed heavily on those goods, what you have to do is to quickly leverage. You are seeing the hikes just now. Even locally, the usual fuel, you are seeing buses now charging 200, 250, 300 for a journey of 15 naira, 100 naira, before now, and this is just going to again water down what these persons can again have at the end of the month. By the time you are profit margin, of course, again, do and actually water down even your savings as an individual, which will again go back to affect a lot of things, as regards the economic growth of the society and Nigeria at large.
Now, would this just be a blessing in disguise for other kinds of transportation? For those who had run away from traveling by land to other states in Nigeria, would this just bring an influx of passengers back to the transport companies?
Of course, this is always like one side losing and the other side gaining. Of course, those who are actually in the transportation section are actually going to cash out this time. Even the guys selling fuel, you see this station is selling for 230, this one selling for 250. Some even buy as high as 280, depending on how far such stations are from the city center. And then you're asking yourself, are these fuel coming from different sources? Why can I buy 200 and I'm getting to this place I'm buying at 230, 250 as the case may be? So that goes along with to tell you that a lot of persons take advantage of other persons at situations like this. And so that's actually
the road transport companies may just take advantage
of course, yes, of course. That's
more passengers may have to turn that way. But there's one transportation way that is not really looked into in the country and not very much patronized: water transportation. If we had boats, connecting states to states, if we had rails connecting most states of the country, do you think that the pressure right now on air transport would be as much as it is?
Of course, that wouldn't have been as bad as it is just now, because if you ask me, rail would have been very good, following the fact that it's actually fast, because a lot of the states will actually have, in the northern areas are not connected, with water, even though there are some states that can navigate, like those in South-South, routes from, the delta areas to the Lagos, Southwest, as the case may be, and all that. But if you ask me, I think Nigerians should look, the Nigerian government should look more into the trains and see how they can carry cargoes, they can carry humans, and then the large number of persons they can transport at a particular time and all that can actually go a long way to reducing, these people are more comfortable just now, following the fact that the trains that were coming this time, that we're having this time, are faster than the ones we used to have, and then they are a little bit cheaper also. And then we can carry as much as possible, cool goods, cargoes, cars, as the case may be, along. So Nigerians should look at this part very well, apart from the road transportation just now. Look at the trains, and then we are more. Nigerians, we have the people. That is one strength that we have in this country. Even though you still make the trains available, the air flight guys will still have where they have to get as regards, patronage when the prices are actually fair enough.
Okay. Now, as we wrap up on this discussion, now, before now, air transport was seen as a privilege for the elite. But right now, it seems to be something that a necessity for almost every Nigerian, because it's time-saving and and for now it seems to be like the safest means of transport. So what has this actually shown? How pivotal is air transport now to Nigeria economy? Is it still the same story then, or it's like you pull the plug out of it and then there's a major problem in the economy?
Yes, I think you know, for the fact that a lot of persons have switched, you know, just now, following with the issue of insecurity. You know, you hear, you know, kidnappings here and there and all that out of fear, you know, of what's going to happen, you know, fear of the unknown. People just resort to muzzle out that money. Even before now, when things were a little bit stable, people just want to, you know, let me just do it and all that. And they are now getting comfortable, you know, with that, with spending that amount of money. You know, it takes you that courage to having to bring out 36,000, 35,000, 30,000, 27,000, the case may be, to now say you are going to Abuja from Benin, or going to Lagos from Benin.
Not to mention your return tickets.
Thank you very much. So, and then instead of you paying 8,500, 10,000 to Lagos, you are having to pay times 3. And just when we are getting okay with that, you are hearing that, come, you have to now pay times 2 of what you're paying before. I mean, that's, again, going to actually not mean, like I already stated, it's not going to mean well for the Nigerian economy, because a lot of things are going to come to a stop. Things will now get slower, because people will now have to resort to using slower means, which is the car, the road transportation, to do almost everything they want to do, just to see that they cut cost. And then if that happens, it's going to again impact negatively on the consumers, because they're the ones that actually bear the brunt in this country. When you actually, you know, just consuming, it becomes an issue, because everything will fall on you. The woman in the market will tell you, come, before I could leave Mercado to come here today with my vegetables, look at what I actually had to pay. In other words, this leaf is now 200 or 250. And then you are going to the market, the same thing happens. You are going back from the market, the same thing happens. The woman selling this, telling you this,
so
and everybody
all of it now resorts to even further hike in inflation rate.
Of course, that's what is going to, that's just what is going to end, because everybody will not leverage on the issue of having to pay more for, you know, what they are selling, to now make sure that the consumer also bears the brunt,
as well as time spent.
Time spent.
Charge for time spent.
Of course, yes.
And every other risk.
Honestly, yes. So, I mean, I can tell you that we just have to sit. I mean, look at what happened just now. Almost everything's at a standstill. You know, the education, these guys are home. You know, the transition, we're having issues with fear. Okay, at home just now, you can't even get light to do what you have to do. Okay, now, you can just imagine. So there's a need for us to look at these things sanely and look at how we can bring them to, you know, a good stop.
If you are to describe the business climate of Nigeria now, with all of these happenings around Nigeria's economy impacting the business climate, how would you describe it?
I mean, it's poor, quite poor. You know, I have a lot of friends everywhere. I've actually been in a lot of courts and a lot of, you know, boot camp. I have a lot of friends, we discuss, we talk, and then it's not nice at all. I see comments from them. I see people who, you know, have to run diesel the whole day because the power grid. Okay, now the diesel are actually up, and now you have to, you know, there's no power. You have to run
everything happening at the same time.
Just at the same time, you have to run your generator for a whole day, and then you see that run for about 2, 3, 4, 5 days. People spend, you know, morning and night for those who are into production, and I mean, it's actually crazy. It's crazy, yes.
Thank you very much, Mani Agri, for coming on the show today. Wow, it doesn't really look bright for business climate in Nigeria for so many reasons, because a lot of factors are acting up behind the scene, and so what we get to see is not something very bright. Because the major thing seems to be energy. Energy.
Honestly.
If energy is solved, then of course we'll have
a lot of things, a whole lot of things would have been in place. Yes.
Inflation rates will come down because cost of production would actually be reduced. We'll have the crisis in the aviation sector solved, and it will just be good for business. Well, we hope that happens. We hope that the energy crisis being experienced in Nigeria comes to a quick halt, so that every other thing can bounce back. Once again, thank you, Manuel, for
Thank you. I'm glad. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. We're not done. We're going to quick break. When we return, with time for us to bring you capital markets report. Stay tuned. All right, now let's look at the capital market. So this week so far has been a week of gains that has with losses at the Nigerian stock market. But yet, the stock market closed on a downward note yesterday as profit taken by 7 stocks dragged market capitalization by 6 billion naira. Now, at the close of transactions yesterday, the oil share index declined by 11.24%, representing a decline of 0.02% to close at 47,353.22 points. Similarly, the overall market's capitalization value lost 6 billion naira to close at 25.521 trillion naira. The market's negative performance was driven by price depreciation in large and medium capitalized stocks, which are Seplat Energy, Nigerian Breweries, Dangote Sugar Refinery, United Capital, and Unilever Nigeria. So some analysts actually reacted to trading, the way trading closed yesterday, and some of them saw that yes, this trading closed bearish as investors weighed in on the impact of the interest rate hike by the U.S. Federal Reserve on their investments. So before we talk about that, quickly let's look at the top gainers at the end of yesterday's trading. We had Royal Exchange, Wapik Insurance, Presco, Multiverse Mining, and Exploration. Now, on the side of the losers, among top losers, we have Niger Insurance, Cornerstone Insurance, Veritas Capital Assurance, and of course Seplat Energy. Okay, so now let's go back to how analysts described yesterday. So according to analysts, it was a mixed sectoral performance. Of course, mixed sectoral performance. We had the insurance sector performing poorly for at the end of trading yesterday. We also had energy performing poorly. By poorly, I mean being among top losers, losing from their shares. And then we also have Royal Exchange, Wapik Insurance, Presco, Multiverse Mining, and Exploration. So indeed, it was a mixture of sectors at that end. So however, market breadth was positive as 18 stocks gained relative to 17 losers. So that's how it was yesterday at the end of trading at the capital markets. So that's it on the show today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I am Blessing AJ. I would ask that you go on and enjoy your weekend. I will see you next week. Bye.